Woohoo! Do you get to the Cloud District very often? Oh, what a pity.
10 years. Skyrim has been with us now for 10 years, and in those 10 years it has been released and re-released 6 million times.
With a million more well on the way.
But of course there's a reason why Bethesda keeps releasing the game every 10 minutes.
I like money!
Besides that, it's because Skyrim holds a special place in a lot of hearts of gamers all around the world. For a lot of people it was the first game in the Elder Scrolls series they played. My first foray into this vast fantasy world was Oblivion, but Skyrim cemented my love of all things Tamrielic. Like many of you, there are a few games I know inside out and can play almost blindfolded. The original Crash trilogy, Fallout 3, Horizon Zero Dawn, Oblivion, the older Pokemon games, the original Halo and Gears of War trilogies, the Mass Effect trilogy, the list goes on and on. But no singular piece of entertainment has sucked more hours of my life than Skyrim. I have played every race, every gender and married everyone. I've slain Alduin, killed Merak, defeated Lord Harkon and plundered the depths of Blackreach for the most annoying plants ever created more times than I care to count. For me at least, the reason I keep coming back to this game is just the sheer accessibility it has to offer. Most great RPGs have you set on a specific class, character, skill set, etc. But not Skyrim. You can make your Dragonborn whatever you want him or her to be, and the game will not punish you for leveling up wrong or picking the wrong skills and playstyle. But despite all the joy and fun I get out of playing this game, I am not blind to its faults. The Companions questline is absolutely abysmal, the Civil War questline also could have been expanded on, and yes, I'm aware of the mod that fills in some of the cut content. And let's not forget everything surrounding Winterhold and the college that could have done with a serious rewrite and overhaul. However, in my opinion, I think there's one thing Skyrim really dropped the ball in having something reach its full potential, and that is the two quests that surround one particular character, Potema the Wolf Queen. Now I was originally going to do an anniversary special video in the same vein as my Crash Bandicoot anniversary video, but I thought I'd do something a little different. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Craig, this is Amalgamingle, and on the 10th anniversary of Skyrim's initial release, I'm going to look at its missed opportunity and what I would have done to fix it. Before we get on with the video, I will put timestamps in the description along with any links to articles and videos that have helped me put this video together. I really hope you stay to the end because this was a lot of fun putting together and it took a lot of playthroughs and research to come to the conclusions I did. So let's break this thing down. Before I get into what I would do differently, I'm going to lay out the questline as it appears in the game so everyone is on the same page and then we'll work from there. Okay, so the first time you go to the Blue Palace in Solitude, you'll witness an audience with Jarl Alasif.
I swear to you, unnatural magics are coming from that cave. There are strange noises and lights. We need someone to investigate.
Then we will immediately send out a legion to scour the cave and secure the town. Hafingar's people will always be safe under my rule.
Your Eminence, my scrying has suggested nothing in the area. Dragonbridge is under Imperial control. This is likely superstitious nonsense.
Perhaps a more tempered reaction might be called for?
Oh, yes, of course, you were right. Falk, tell Captain Aldis I said to assign a few extra soldiers to Dragonbridge.
Thank you, Jarl Elisif. But about the cave?
I will have someone take care of the cave as well, Varnius. You can rest easy. You're dismissed.
Once the audience has disbanded, you can talk to Falk Firebeard and offer to investigate the cave. He says he'll pay you for investigating the cave, and if you ask him about the cave, he'll give a little bit of context into the cave's history and namesake.
Animals, or perhaps bandits. I don't think it's worth our time with the war going on. But if you want to clear out the cave, I'll make sure you're repaid for your work. The cave has a bad history. Long ago, Potema the Wolf Queen used it for necromantic rituals. That's where it got the name. That was over 500 years ago. Nothing much down there now, but everyone's always convinced the cave is haunted.
This starts the quest, The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Now if you'll allow me to nitpick for a moment, I want to show you something on the map. Here is Dragonbridge, and here is Wolfskull Cave. They look close, but they're quite a distance away from each other, even if you try and go in a straight line. My nitpick is how the bloody hell does Varnius know anything is happening in a cave that's nowhere near Dragonbridge? Now you could argue that it's when they go out hunting game, but there's plenty of fish, deer and all sorts of game on the opposite side of the bridge. But now I'm just going off on a tangent. Back to the quest. The cave is a 2-tier necromancer lair, full of skeletons, draugr and necromancers all level to you. As soon as you clear the first tier and make your way into the second area, you'll come across an enormous cavern with a decrepit fort inside. And you'll overhear a ritual taking place.
Wolf Queen, hear our call and awaken. We summon Potema. We summon Potema. Long have you slept the dreamless sleep of death, Potema. No longer. Hear us, Wolf Queen. We summon you. We summon Potema.
So now we know what we're doing and what we need to stop doing, as we can make our way through the winding paths, stairs and corridors of this forgotten fort of the damned. As you get further into the area, you'll hear someone else join this magical meeting.
Yes! Yes! Return me to this realm!
As our voices summon you, the blood of the innocent binds you, Wolf Queen. Summon with words bound by blood.
What? What are you doing, you fools? You cannot bind me to your wills.
Summon with words bound by blood.
You ants don't have the power to bind me.
But this is where things also take a more sinister turn. These necromancers, and there are a few of them, are trying to bind the spirit of the Wolf Queen to them, and she doesn't mince words when it comes to her opinion on their abilities. Once you've cleared the cave out, the partially reformed spirit you saw floating above the main fort tower will scurry away and disappear in the quest updates telling you to report back to Folk Firebeard with your findings. Telling him what you discovered, he all but shits himself and will give you gold based on your level, and that ends the quest. The next time you level up and you're away from Solitude, you'll be approached by a courier who carries a note from Folk Firebeard to return to the Blue Palace. So back we go.
Found you? Yes, old friend. I'm afraid it's not good news. When you broke up the binding, Potema escaped. We've encountered some of her minions. Steer says she's still in spirit form, or we'd all be dead already. You've already done us a service in stopping the binding, but I need you to go talk to him, to see if Steer can tell us what to do next. He's Solitude's priest of Archay. He's the one who figured out Potema was still around. He'll help as much as he can. I wish you well, friend. Be careful.
After speaking to Stir, the resident priest of Archay in Solitude, we head into the catacombs under the Temple of the Divines where Potema speaks to us herself.
You've arrived at last. The hero who prevented me from being bound returns to my fold. I have much to thank you for, little one. When you die, I will raise you, and you can take your place by my side. You'll serve me soon enough.
Curiously, the catacombs are not full of other necromancers like Wolfskull Cave, but filled with vampires and draugr. I'm not sure what vampires would gain from siding with her, but they're only in the way. After fighting through the 2-tier dungeon, we come to Potema's sanctum, where we find her spirit close to reforming her body. She'll taunt you and release some more draugr, though these are level to your character. Once you've eliminated those draugr, her spirit will flee, opening a passage at the back of the sanctum where she will take a skeletal spirit form in which you can fight and defeat her. After you put her down for good, you can take her skull back to Stir, who will take it from you to be sanctified and thank you for a job well done. From there, you head back to the Blue Palace, where you tell Folk Firebeard you've taken care of Potema, and she'll give you the Shield of Solitude and a reward of gold based on your level, and that ends the questline. There won't be any more mention of Potema, and no one brings up what you did. And that's the questline done. Now, you might be thinking, Craig, what's so special about that? You fight a unique boss, go to a unique location and get a unique shield with an enchantment that cannot be replicated unless you destroy it. What's so special about all that? Well, I'll tell you. Well, the reason why I focused on this questline is because of Potema herself. Skyrim does a poor job of telling you just how powerful she really is and the danger she possesses. In Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim, you can find an 8-part book series called The Wolf Queen that really delves deep into the history of this character. I will abridge this for you because if you ever play these games again, I highly recommend you read these books for yourselves when you come across them. How much is true and how much is fiction is debatable, but Potema is a manipulative and intelligent woman who was capable of great magical feats, such as summoning Daedra to aid her and resurrecting fallen enemies to fight alongside her as undead thralls. She tried to stop the coronation of her niece, Kintyra II, and that got her banished from the imperial court. Potema sided with disgruntled kings to attack the empire across multiple fronts. This would eventually lead to what is referred to as the War of the Red Diamond, which was a civil war that nearly destroyed the empire. This war lasted 7 years and would eventually end during the Siege of Solitude after a month-long holdout, and Potema was finally defeated, but not before she did one final act of evil. She gave a cursed ring and amulet to her nephew Pelagius III, who would later become known as Pelagius the Mad. And that ends the life of Potema the Wolf Queen. Now when I mention the Empire in that section, I am not referring to the Empire as we see it in Skyrim. I'm referring to it as we see it in Morrowind and Oblivion and the earlier Elder Scrolls games, long before Skyrim takes place. History time! The previous entry in the Elder Scrolls series, Oblivion, takes place a little over 200 years before Skyrim, in the 433rd year of the Third Era. For context, in case you don't know, Skyrim takes place in the 201st year of the Fourth Era. Let me just summarise what happens in the main story. The Emperor and his sons are assassinated by a cult known as the Mythic Dawn, as they want to merge Tamriel with the realm of Mehrunes Dagon, one of the strongest Daedric princes. A secret heir is discovered and, with a little help from you, thwart the Mythic Dawn and prevent Mehrunes Dagon from destroying the world. I'm purposely glossing over the main quest because you really should play Oblivion if you haven't. It's awesome. But, spoilers, after the heir sacrifices himself, that ends the Septim bloodline. There are no more heirs, no cousins, nephews, uncles, aunts, nieces, brothers or sisters to take over the throne, and thus the Septim Empire collapses, leaving an uncertain future. For a little more context, Potema was alive some 300 years before the events of Oblivion. Now, back to Skyrim. 30 years before the start of Skyrim is an event you should all be familiar with because NPCs don't shut up talking about it. The Great War. The Aldmeri Dominion fought against the Mede Empire, and after a long, bloody and destructive conflict, the war ended with a lot of concessions being forced upon the Empire by the Dominion, the most prominent of which is the banned worship of Telos, who was once Tyba Septim, founder of the Empire and the great uncle of Potema. The banning of Telos, a revered hero amongst the Nords of Skyrim, results in one man, Ulfric Stormcloak, leading a rebellion against the Empire's forces in the Kingdom of the North. Now the actions you can take result in either the Imperials winning or the Stormcloaks winning, or, if you play it a certain different way, you can get the quest Season Unended, in which a temporary ceasefire is agreed upon by both sides until the threat of Alduin is sorted. Like I said at the top of the video, but the Civil War is also something that could have been more fleshed out, and I know there was a lot of content that didn't make it into the final game. Anyway, those three endings have many fans, myself included, speculating on what ending Bethesda will choose for Elder Scrolls 6 when it releases in 2199. Okay, that sums up Potema and the Civil War questline as it appears in Skyrim. Now I'm going to give you a rundown of what I would have done in their place, and boy oh boy is this ambitious. First things first, this would probably not be able to fit in the base game, and would have been better as a DLC, otherwise this would have to be the main quest. Actually, given how lackluster I think the main quest in Skyrim is, that's not too bad an exchange if I say so myself. What I would do is use the Dawnguard storyline, but change the antagonist to Potema instead of Harkon and the Volkihar vampire clans, and you wouldn't have to change all that much. You could get the same greeting about the Dawnguard, and you could still have a growing vampire menace, and do everything the same. Same prophecy about the sun, but you probably would need to have the Forgotten Vale and the fight with Arch-Curate Vythor, or any of the stuff with the Snow Elves. You will still go to Dim Hollow Crypt, and you can still find Serana locked away with an Elder Scroll. However, she does not need to be a vampire. Don't worry, I will tie all this together. We can try and escape the crypt the same way, but come across a Vampire Lord boss, who can have a note telling him that he needs to bring the Elder Scroll to a certain location. This could be a randomly selected vampire cave in the base game, or a completely new area. And then you head back to Fort Dawnguard with Serana and the Elder Scroll. You can find a place being attacked by vampires, Daedra, and, more crucially, Stormcloaks and Imperials, all wearing a sigil of the Empire's dragon logo, but with a wolf shape behind a dragon similar to the Solitude shield design. Some of these will turn to ash when they've been killed. Once you've repelled the attack, you talk to Isran with Serana about the Elder Scroll and why it's so important and why she was hidden away. Like I said, the prophecy will stay the same. Serana could be part of a different order of vampire hunters or another faction that got wind of the Sun prophecy and was hidden away with the scroll to protect it. Unlike the original Dawnguard storyline where Isran is naturally Apprehensive around Serana being a vampire and all, because she's not in this storyline, he offers to protect her, and you go out and do the usual bolster of the ranks while they work on defending the guard. Once you reach this point in the questline, you can overhear guards and townfolks talking about Imperial Snowcloak camps being destroyed and decimated, but no sign of any bodies. You can travel to these camps and find them burning away. Nothing left but destroyed tents and destroyed appliances. Think of the Helgen opening. You might find the occasional dead vampire body, or one or two Daedra just lurking around nearby the camps for you to fight. All based on your level. This will be a great opportunity to show new types of Daedra. One thing Skyrim is lacking is variety when it comes to all things Daedric. In Oblivion there were so many different types that you could not only fight but also summon. But here I only counted 6. That's the Dremora, the Frost, Fire and Storm Atronachs, Seekers, Lurkers, and I'm not sure if the enemies in the Soul can count. You could bring the usual low level foes like Scamps and Clanfears for low level characters and then add more as you go up in level. Who wouldn't want to fight a Spider Daedra, Daedroth or Zivalai in Skyrim? That would be awesome. It would also add more spells and tricks to the Conjuration skill tree instead of the watered down basic system we got in the game. Obviously, as the years have gone on, mods have greatly improved the magic system that's in Skyrim, but I'm talking as vanilla Skyrim stands now. Anyway, once you bolster the numbers a little, you're tasked with going to sneaking into this hideout and finding out what you can. This cave can have a secret entrance that leads into an enormous cavern that's similar to the Mythic Dawn hideout in Oblivion, but plastered with that same corrupted Empire logo everywhere. Vampires, Daedra and former Imperials and Stormcloaks can be dotted around, wearing a mishmash of different armor types. In the centre, you can find a podium with a man or woman giving a great speech about how the Mede dynasty is a fake empire and how the Stormcloaks are fools for fighting the wrong enemy when they should be fighting the Thalmor and the Aldmeri Dominion. Ringleader can be the general of the army and explain that the next phase in their plan is to attack a major city. I would personally pick Winterhold because not only is it badly utilised in the base game, but it could also tie into the College of Winterhold questline. After all, an army of necromancers, vampires, deserters and wizards would be quite a force to be reckoned with, not to mention any powerful magic items and books, and reclaim them for this new faction. And it's here that we hear the name of this faction for the first time, the Septim Empire Reborn. And, depending on whether or not you've done the college questline, this could also tie in with the Eye of Magnus. You are then told to escape and report to Isran, who will try and mount a force to reach Winterhold, but when you get there it's already in ruins. The place is overrun with vampires, soldiers, Daedra, skeletons and ghosts. The Jarl is dead and the college is on fire. This could be the Kvatch of this game. You and Serana, that's right, she's still a companion here, race to the college, and who do you find waiting in the courtyard? The spirit of Potema speaking to the general we saw in the cave. She praises them for a job well done before disappearing. The general confronts you and will gloat about the return of Potema and how Tamriel will once again be united under the rule of a Septim. An undead Septim who will live forever and destroy the Thalmor and the Dominion. You can try and take the general alive for questioning, but they will commit suicide, laughing about the return of Empress Potema. The general's body will have a journal about upcoming attacks and battle plans, and from here, this is where the civil war plays into it. Depending on whether or not you've completed the questline, or who you've sided with, depends on the outcome. Siding with the Empire means you, Isran and Serana meet in secret with Jarl Alasith, Folk Firebeard, Sabil Stentor and General Tullius. You tell them what's going on and Tullius will bolster the defence of the cities and towns ready for the next attack. The same thing can happen if you side with the Stormcloaks, speaking to Ulfric Stormcloak, Galmar Stonefist and his steward Yorlif, and you get basically the same response. But here's where I want to make things more interesting. If you have not sided with anyone yet, this is where season unending could really come into play. Think about it. This is a divisive subject. Telos, who was once Tiber Septim, who ruled the true empire as many people consider it, his resurrected great niece is back, and there is now a faction calling itself the Septim Empire Reborn, who looks to conquer and reclaim all of Tamriel. With an undead army under her, Potema could even invade Blackmarsh fully, going deep into the marsh of the Argonian homeland, where none have ever been able to venture due to its inhospitable environment. The Stormcloaks, Imperials, and even Esbern and Delphin can be dragged into this, since the Blades once existed to serve the Empire, and this could lead to a conflict of interest. Potema, undead or not, would be a dragonborn empress, a true heir to the throne, and the Blade's first job was the protection of the royal family, of course. The Jarls could also be split about this, since some of them are loyal to the Empire as it stands now, and some are loyal to Ulfric. But the thought of a Septim returning, even one like Potema, could sway Jarls to side with the reborn Empire. There are so many ways this could be sliced and diced. After this meeting, regardless of your choices, a member of the Dawnguard will approach you and Isran, telling you that they have someone who wishes to speak to you. This can be a soldier who has defected from the Empire Reborn who knows the next part of the plan. You can question them many ways and they explain they defected after the sacking of Winterhold. This person could have grown up there or had friends there, but had no idea just how out of hand this would get. You can then balk at their naivety, since necromancers and vampires are involved, not to mention Daedra, and just how did they think this was going to play out. The next part of the plan is to enter the Soul Cairn, where Potema hopes to make a deal with the Ideal Masters for more power in exchange for more souls, something she would not have any remorse in doing. This soldier can also explain that there is someone else working alongside Potema. A woman, mysterious that they haven't met before. They know she's powerful because Potema listens to her counsel. But we'll get back to that person later. The soldier says the portal to the Soul Cairn is in Castle Volkihar. This is where the vampires can really play a part in it. You could still have Lord Harkon and even Valerica, but they wouldn't need to be related to Serana, and they are basically side bosses employed by Potema and this mysterious woman. You can lead this defector with Isran, and you and Serana head to Castle Volkihar, once again going through the secret entrance as if this was the base game. You can also still fight the usual gargoyles and skeletons, but there will be a mishmash of Daedra and other types of enemies, and you could probably fight Harkon before heading into the Soul Cairn and Valerica trying to escape. When you get inside the Soul Cairn, you're too late, and Potema has already made a deal, and this is where another figure can emerge, but as an up-and-up antagonist this time. Durnavir. Instead of being only a one-shot boss battle, he could keep returning at different points in the questline. Before you fight Harkon or Valerica, they can gloat that once Potema finds her skeletal remains and is reformed, she will be unstoppable. A lich that will rule the Empire forever, and all undead creatures will live in glory under her rule. One of them can also gloat about using Oriol's bow to block out the sun and bring an eternity of darkness upon Tamriel. But the artifact isn't in my questline, but it could easily be added if need be. Once they've been defeated, you can head back to Isran and explain the situation. One of the reasons I keep going back to Isran is that in the base Dawnguard DLC, I always found this character to be just kind of meh, and all he does is growl. Here I wanted to expand him into something of an actual leader. Skyrim is a power trip fantasy for you and your character, and the problem there is that a lot of characters don't reach their full potential because you end up the leader of every faction. You defeat Alduin, you defeat Merak, you defeat Harkon, etc, etc, etc. You can still have the power fantasy, but without throwing characters to the sidelines. Now that we know the enemy needs Potema's remains to bind her spirit, it becomes a race against time to find where her body was buried, but there are no records of her burial and much of Solitude has changed. This can lead to the catacombs from the Wolf Queen Awakened, but instead of it being a two-tier dungeon, we could also have a vast chasm similar to Blackreach, or maybe even have it take place in Blackreach or accessed through Blackreach, where we could have one final battle with Durnavir before we banish him back to the Soul Cairn for good. It is also here where we find out who that mystery woman is. After defeating the mystery woman and fighting through Daedra, vampires and other enemies, don't worry, Serana's still with us and a small army with Isran by our side, we find an entrance to Potema's sanctum that takes us through to where her body remains, and have a fight with her Draugr minions and her herself, where she is only weakened by defeating her minions, similar to fighting Matriarch Benezia in Mass Effect 1. After her spirit is defeated once and for all, you can take her remains, and things can still play out the same way it does in the base game. You take the remains to a Priest of Arche, doesn't have to be Stir, and the Empire Reborn is disbanded with no septum to unite them. You can still have Serana as a companion, and those once ruined camps could be rebuilt by either side of the Civil War questline, or you could find Daedra and other enemies there from time to time if you've already completed the questline. Slowly, over in-game time, Winterhold and the College could both be rebuilt, and you can find more Dawnguard patrols on the road of Skyrim, rooting out everything Daedric and vampiric, possibly working alongside the Vigilance of Stendarr. And that ends what I would have done differently. Now I purposely glossed over that mysterious woman, the one who gave Potema counsel. I did that for a reason, so let's introduce her, shall we? Now, if there's one video I highly recommend you watch that really helps tie in all my points about this next figure, is from Camelworks. If you don't know who he is, he does a lot of Elder Scrolls videos, and they're always enjoyable to watch. I'll link his Sabil Stentor video below because that's the one that goes into even more detail than I will here. Don't worry, I can wait.
75 years later.
Welcome back. Sabil Stentor would make the ultimate villain, the puppet master behind everything, the one who sets all these chains of events off. If you watch the video I highly recommended, you know why, but if not, I'll explain it anyway. She's a vampire. And not just a vampire, but the Court Wizard of Solitude, the capital of Skyrim, which is the highest honour any mage could ever aspire for in Skyrim, and she's also a destruction trainer, although when you clear out Pinemood Cave for her, she increases your illusion skill, not destruction. This is a perfect position for a vampire to be in. This is the ultimate in wolf in sheep's clothing, and it makes her all the more powerful and creepier. When it comes to the Potema questline in the base game, Sabil is the one who stops Elisif from sending out a legion to scour the cave and secure the town in The Boy Who Cried Wolf. And after you've completed the Wolf Queen Awaken, Sabile Stentor will spend the rest of the game lying on her bed. Oh, she'll still get up to talk to you and barter with you, but the moment you stop talking to her, she'll get back in bed, implying that she has always had some connection to Potema. Now this is never followed upon in the base game, and you cannot out her as a vampire to the court, so the connection goes unanswered. I'm not sure if this is also a case of a questline that was shortened down for time constraints or for any other reason, but that's as far as it goes in the base game. But for my version, why would she do all this? She's a vampire, yes, but she has the perfect position of power to be in. It all comes down to High King Torygg. We never meet him in-game, but this is the guy Ulfric Stormcloak killed and started the whole Stormcloak rebellion over, which led to his wife and widow, Jarl Alasith, assuming the mantle of High Queen of Skyrim. If you speak to Sabile about her history at court, she'll explain how she's been a member of the court for decades and helped raise Torygg and was proud to see him become High King of Skyrim. There is no denying the motherly tones in her voice when she speaks to Torygg, but it goes a little further. You can overhear her opinions on Alasith, and she cuts through the ruse between Folk Firebeard and Thane Bryling like a hot knife through butter. So she has no love of the Court of Solitude. The death of Torygg is what sent her over the edge. She instantly despised the Empire for being weak and not having the stones to fight the Thelmor, and for not putting down the Stormcloaks before Torygg was killed. And of course she hates Ulfric for killing her beloved Torygg. Now from here it depends on how you see it. Is she actually Torygg's mother? Not sure how that works since she's a vampire, but weirder things have happened in the Elder Scrolls. Or is she something else? But, more crucially, I believe that Sabile could have been one of Potema's right-hand generals or mages during the Civil War. She might not have been a vampire at that time, and she could have easily believed that Potema was right to want to sit on the throne of the Empire, and, when all was lost, Potema gave her an amulet or trinket or some other kind of magical item that contained a fragment of her soul, so that she could be resurrected when the time was right. Sabile could have been around for 500 years, maybe longer, learning all kinds of powerful magics, using her illusion magic to help her gain positions of power, until she got the greatest position any mage could want, the Court Wizard of Solitude. In such a lofty position, she could plan and prepare for the return of Potema, the true queen of not only Skyrim, but the Empire. And what better time than after Torygg was killed. Now after so many centuries, Sabile could have lost interest in bringing back Potema, but as soon as her beloved High King was killed, she knew that Tamriel needed a powerful ruler, someone who would put people like Ulfric Stormcloak in his place. And so she started to reach out to other vampires, started cavorting with Daedra, started sowing the seeds for the return of Potema, creating the Septim Empire Reborn logo. This is where the Elder Scroll that Serana carries comes into play. This would be Sabile's bargaining chip with the Volkihar vampire clan. She promised Harkin he can destroy the sun if he helps her resurrect Potema and unite all of Tamriel. The dynamic between Sabile and Potema could be something similar to Saruman and Sauron in Lord of the Rings. That would explain the connection between the two we see in the base game, and that would also explain why she spends the rest of the game asleep once those quests are complete. Unless you go by my version, in which she wants the Empire and Stormcloaks destroyed and Potema to return, where she can flourish under the rule of her undead Empress. Defeating Sabile before fighting Potema could also potentially weaken Potema, just that little more, as she's still not fully formed. And thus ends the machinations of Sabile Stentor, the true villain of Skyrim. Whew, so there we are. That brings me to the end of what I think is the greatest missed opportunity in Skyrim. There are plenty of other videos I could do about other missed opportunities in Skyrim, so if you'd like to see me tackle the College of Winterhold, Companions, or even the Civil War questline, let me know. If you made it all this way, I really hope you enjoyed the video. My name's Craig, this is Amalgamingle, and thank you for watching.